here we are. It's been a long time since I had to talk about the Star Wars, but today something like I had communication with my distributor about the Star Wars. So I was just like, oh, that's weird. I never had to be honest, I haven't had to talk about Star Wars in a while because, the last 2 years have been pretty abysmal, to be honest, as a retailer for Star Wars. It's just not been a great time to sell Star Wars The Black Series and even vintage collections. So it's just suddenly we just had communication with one of our distributors about it. And, well, I decided, hey, may as well talk about it because it's been a while since I had anything to do about talking about Star Wars. Because Star Wars, there used to be a time where we'd always talk about Star Wars, the great empire that was, for toy sellers, selling Star Wars The Black Series. But then, nowadays it's it's a pretty dark place now. So what I want to talk about is I was ordering more restock of Temple Guards. So it's one of the newest waves for Star Wars The Black Series, Jedi Temple Guard, and there's three other figures in this wave. And for the first time in a long time, distribution said, "Hey, we're out." And I'm just like, "You're out of the Star Wars? How's that?" And yeah, they told me because I need more Temple Guards because I ran out of Temple Guards, and it's still a relatively new release. And so I tried to restock on some of the items, and they're like, "Yeah, we're out of the solid cases." So for those who don't know, Star Wars as a retailer, when you order it, you can order it in solid cases, which is a full box of 6. So it'll just be 6 figures of the same character, or the dreaded assortment case, which I'm sure every retailer fears, but it's something that we deal with in the industry. So the assortment case is 6 figures, same thing, except the numbers are a bit wonky, or honestly, it's a bit messy for stores to carry. So what they do is so in this case, the assortment here has Jedi Temple Guard, Barriss off. Please forgive me if I'm gonna say everything completely wrong. The Ronin and Dash Rendar. So these are the 4 figures in the assortment. So the assortment is still available at distribution, but that's where we come to a bit of a problem because it's 4 figures, but there's 6 figures in the box. So 2 of these figures are doubled up. God forbid if they triple up on a figure, and then that figure for sure is doomed to be the peg warmer, right? So in this box, they put 2 Temple Guards, which is probably the best-selling figure of the wave between the 4 of them, which is fine. But then there's only 1 Barriss Offrey and 2 of the Ronin, which I think is probably the worst selling of the wave, or at least for my store, it was the worst selling. I'm not sure a lot of Star Wars collectors have too much of an attachment to the Ronin, so that's why it didn't sell well for us. But maybe for other places, they it's a cool looking figure. I'll admit that much. And Dash Rendar being a one-off. So the problem is now, if I order a bunch of the assortment, sure, I'll get 2 of Temple Guards, but how many Temple Guards am I going to sell compared to the Ronin? It's probably not a 1-to-1 ratio. So what happens if I order 10 cases, and I get in this case I'll get 20 Temple Guards, but I'll also get 20 of the Ronin, and I could probably sell 40 of the Temple Guard, but trying to sell 40 of the Ronin might prove a bit more difficult. The other ones then also follow suit, where you're going to sell more Temple Guards than probably Dash Rendar, I want to say. I mean Dash Rendar did pretty well, but the limit for how many Dash Rendars you can sell, it's the whole army builder versus a character, right? You can have a beloved character, sure, everybody will get 1 of it, but everybody will just get 1 of it. While a generic stormtrooper is okay, they want an army build, want to have 2 stormtroopers getting their ass kicked by whatever, Kylo Ren or something, or Basil or Sabul, whatever. You're gonna have 1 of some generic character, and then you have a bunch of army builders the Dark Trooper, right? So people just like that, it makes sense. Same thing with the G.I. Joe. In Marvel, you can also have Hydra officers or whatever, and people like to army build them. So in this case, anyway, for us as a store, when we're told here's the assortment, we kind of what are we gonna do here? Because we like to order the solids just because the solids allow us to at least control the number. If we're gonna sell 6 of a popular character, versus one of a non-popular character. You know, you want to order 6 of the solids and 1 solid of the regular one, and you know your numbers will be equal. But when the only thing available at distribution is assortments, now you're kind of just stuck with that ratio, and that kind of like I don't know, that puts things a bit it makes it a bit more difficult. And so that's why you sometimes when you go to like a Walmart or something and that you see on the shelf there'll be like 3 Landos, because well sometimes for some reason they put like 3 Landos in a case of 6, and you're just like, oh, well, great, this assortment is terrible, right? In recent times they've done better, right? Because they do a scaling, but they are a grading, but you know, sometimes, you know, when there's only 4 characters and there's 6 in a box, you know, you can only scale so much, and you know, they gotta pick the right ones, otherwise you end up with permanent bench warmers. Or, you know, if they redo it twice, you know, they do Bo-Katan, you know, 2 in a case, and then next set they do 1 more. It's like, okay, well now it's like virtually in the last 2 sets we have 3 Bo-Katans. I don't know, it becomes difficult for decisions that you have to do with a store. But anyway, so this point is where it's been a long time since, you know, a new set of Star Wars sold out for the solids in distribution, and the assortment is also not too far behind. They told me like, yeah, you'll probably get 1 more big order of assortments, then you're probably, you know, what you get is what you get. And you know, it's a bit strange because like it's been so long since we don't get as many Star Wars waves as we used to. Like I mean, I used to, because I want to put this in perspective. In 2020, 2021, with, you know, season 1 of Mandalorian, Star Wars was like 30-40% of Hasbro sales. Like for us and in our store, like we were just, you know, we had twice as much Star Wars figures as Marvel figures, for example. And now it's like, you know, Marvel way outsells Star Wars. It's not even close, right? So like for us in our store, we sell Transformers, Marvel. These are our top 2 like A+ S tier figures, and we just can't get enough of it. And then it's and now that we have like Star Wars, which is like, you know, there's a lot of things between Transformers, Marvel, and then Star Wars being somewhere over there. So, you know, there's been a time where I pondered like, oh, I'm gonna cut the vintage collection because it's like taking so much space just to get those carded figures. And I mean, I haven't cut it up, but I've also like tried to reduce my order number because I don't want to have it in stock for too long. And well, at some point now, distribution is also like, hey, we don't want to carry this stuff for too long too, so distribution is running out quickly. So this makes like a weird balance now, where it's like, okay, if you know, I don't want to completely cut off Star Wars, because you know Star Wars is still a huge IP and people love it for, you know, for the rest of their lives. People will love some certain IPs. You know, I'll be a Godzilla fan for the next 100 years, and some people who are Star Wars fans will be a Star Wars fan for the next also 100 years, right? And so we always want to keep it. But now if distribution is running out, I've been stuck in a place where I'm like, okay, they're out. So do I now need to start carrying, you know, a bunch of the Ronins? Because now, like, do I have to start carrying stock of these items? It's like an item that I'm not too familiar with, but it's weird because like they're also doing a few reissues recently. So I'm trying to wonder if like Hasbro has like come back like, hey, we need to go back to like their roots and try and make the Black Series more collectible again, where it's like, okay, we're gonna do a limited run of stuff. We're just not gonna super mass print things, and so they're gonna scale back their production of it, but you know, maybe focus more on the line, which is actually I'm kind of hopeful for it if they decide to like switch that around, where they're like, okay, we're gonna make limited amounts of the product, but we're gonna do that, you know, more effort into it, because I think that would help the line. Because right now, honestly, I don't know that there's any kind of media for Star Wars that's really like worth talking about. Like, I mean, you know, a TV show or a movie or a series. Like, as far as I'm concerned, there's nothing really out there that's, you know, keeping people in the universe thinking about Star Wars. So for the toy sales, at least I think like if they actually put more effort into every single figure and they just release less of it, I think that would help. That's, you know, 2022, 2023, they were just every other month they would release a new set, and it just at some point it got a bit like, you know, it's a Boba Fett reskin or it's Bo-Katan reskin, and it was starting to be a bit lazy, I want to say. So, but now lately, like the last, you know, the Dash Rendar, Temple Guard, the Ronin. Like the Ronin's definitely like an all new sculpt, right? I mean, somebody obviously will comment below and say, "No, you're wrong. His sword is a reissue." Or, okay, whatever. But most of it looks new, at least for my useless eyes, right? I don't know. I'm kind of like semi-optimistic that the coming years might actually the coming years I want to say might actually be good for Star Wars: The Black Series, just because if they are going to reduce and not overprint things, and we won't get product going to the bottom bin and all these and super discounts already right off the bat. It's like, because that's just bad for the brand too, and it's also bad for us stores where it's like, oh, why did we even bother buying it when we're being undercut by another retailer who's buying it at the discount, right? So I also think it's better for the fans, because the fans don't want to be ripped off with like cheesy repaints. We want something new every once in a while. So here's going good, and I think I don't know when this happened this year, but like for example, we're already 8 months into this year, and our Star Wars sales for this year has already beaten Star Wars sales of last year. And so it's like, okay, we still have another 4 months to go. And I've not seen like a huge growth in the fan base or anything, but the sales have picked up. So like, here's some more life for Star Wars. Now, I mean by Star Wars, I mean, I'm saying Black Series and the Vintage Collection, but for us, Vintage Collection sells a lot less than the Black Series. Just what it is, right? So I mean, I'm cautiously optimistic, and I'm hoping that they do this slow release schedule and limit, like, they're just gonna put like 4 figures every 3 months or 6 months, but they're gonna be really good figures, and I think that will be actually good for the line. So yeah, let's see what happens. I mean, so I guess from a customer, like, if you're a customer and you want to buy figures, I guess the old saying like, hey, wait for it to go on clearance might not be true for much longer, because, well, I know distribution's already out of the latest wave, at least the latest wave for us at the time of this recording, right? So right now I'm going to be deciding, like, okay, Temple Guard, is he, like, am I going to buy a bunch of the assortment just so I can have it? Because right now I'm sold out of all of these 4 figures. They told me that they have another shipment for me in 2 weeks' time. So in 2 weeks' time I have to kind of decide how many of the assortments I want to risk taking in. But like, at this point, if they're telling me it's limited amount, I might just say, yeah, just give me 20 cases or 40 cases and I'll write it out, because I don't see any pre-orders for anything else for a while. So that might be the only thing, and it's gonna be easier for people to collect if there's only 4 figures for the next 6 months, right? So I don't know. It was just a decision, and I don't know. I just wanted to talk about it because, like, it's been so long since I talked about the Black Series. Like, it's really, like, if you told me in 2020, like, hey, yeah, Black Series is gonna be, not even in the top 10 bestsellers in 5 years' time, I'll be like, no, that's crazy. Mandalorian's never gonna die. Baby Yoda's just loved forever, so there's no way they can screw up Star Wars that badly. And well, foot in my mouth, right? The Star Wars definitely dropped. So I would love to see the line recollect and get back into a space. So I mean, I think some things are changing for Hasbro for the Black Series, and I'm kind of liking these change where they're the release schedule. So let's see what happens. Yeah, just wanted to put that out there, because it's just a topic I haven't had a talk with my distributor about. I know some things that, like, from the TCG section that has been like super allocated and people can't get it, but Star Wars. But for having Star Wars to be in that zone, this completely threw me off, because like everything I wanted for Star Wars, whenever I asked, like, give me this, they're like, yeah, sure, here, just take whatever number you want. There's no like no maximum. And now it's like, hey, it's sold out. So I don't know, it might bring back, might put collecting back into collectibles for Star Wars. So here's hoping. Everybody else, stay frosty.